Hey kids, it's Papa. Are you ready to explore the Bible? All right. Hey, today we're going to be taking a look in Genesis chapter 31. Genesis chapter 31. Hey, you looking forward to seeing us this Friday? We are looking forward to having you with us. Anyway, Genesis chapter 31. Now, here we have in Genesis chapter 31 kind of a sad story because things could have been so different if Laban hadn't deceived Jacob and Jacob hadn't deceived Laban. And the problem is that when you start deceiving people, when you start lying to people, you have to deceive more and tell more lies. And it's just a trap. And so Jacob realized, hey, Laban doesn't like me anymore because, this thing with his flocks and herds, now suddenly I'm getting rich and he's getting poor. And the strong cattle and the strong flocks are mine, and his are the weak ones. And Laban's sons are upset with me, and they're talking to their father, and their father's mad at me. And boy, I tell you, he was afraid because he realized, if I say, "Hey, I'm going to leave," Laban will say, "Fine, you can leave, but you can't take your daughter, my daughters. You can't take all of your flocks and herds. You can't take anything because it all belongs to me." Well, Jacob realized that if he was going to get away, he was going to have to get away once again through deceit and through lies. And so he waited. He waited until he knew that Laban was going to shear his flocks, and it was a 3-day journey away. And so he waited until he was 3 days away. And then he said to his wives and all of his servants, he said, "Quick, pack up everything. Let's get out of here." And they left. Well, Rachel did something also that was dishonest and deceitful, and she went and stole Laban's gods. Now, they would have gold idols back then, and they would worship and bow down to them. And part of it was worship, and part of it was just the possession of having something really valuable, because they would make these things out of gold and the such like. And Rachel decided she was going to steal them. And so she stole the gods, the little idols of Laban, and off they went. And they went as fast as they could. But remember, they had children and they had flocks and they had herds and wives and women. And so they couldn't go too fast. And so they went as quickly as they could. But 7 days after they were gone, Laban caught up with them because he had heard and he had come back and he'd found that his gods were gone, and he quick jumped and off they went to chase. Here we go, to chase down Jacob and all of his flocks. Well, just before he caught up with him, matter of fact, it was the night before, God gave Laban a dream. And in that dream, God said, "Don't hurt Jacob. Don't do anything against him, or I will judge you." Well, Laban apparently listened to God at that point, because when he caught up with Jacob, he was angry. He said, "Why have you left? I wanted to be able to kiss my daughters and my grandkids goodbye, and I would have sent you out with a feast." And Jacob said, "You would not have sent me out with a feast. You would have taken everything away from me, and you would have not let me go, and you would have not let my wives go, and you certainly wouldn't let all of my flocks and herds go." And Laban was furious, and he said, "Yeah, but you know what? If you had to go, fine. But why did you take my gods?" And Jacob said, "What are you talking about? I didn't take your gods. I didn't take anything that belongs to you." And now they're fighting. And Laban says, "Well, then let me search everything, and I'll find my gods." And Jacob said, "We don't have your gods, and if anybody took your gods, then let that person die." And oh my, because his favorite wife, Rachel, had been the one to take those gods. So Rachel hid them in the camel's furniture, and then she sat down on those. And when everybody was coming around and searching, and Laban was furious, and Rachel, his favorite daughter, said, "Oh, Daddy, I'm so tired, and I, that medically I've got a reason why I can't stand up. And so he said, well, okay, you just stay seated. And he went on looking, and he didn't find them. Well, finally, he said, well, okay, I guess you didn't take them. Somebody else must have taken them. And so they decided that they were going to make an agreement with each other, and they raised up a big pile of rocks, and they called it Gilead and Mizpah, and they made it, and in this thing with Mizpah, they said, okay, we're gonna put this thing up, and Gilead is what they called it, and they said, the Lord watch between me and thee when we are absent one from another. And there are times when people think that's so romantic, but it wasn't romantic because they didn't trust each other. They were really, really upset with each other. And they were saying, we don't trust you. And so the Lord's going to have to watch you because I can't. And so they parted and they went away. It didn't have to end that way. It didn't have to start that way. Laban started off by deceiving Jacob, and that kind of had to happen because Jacob was a deceiver, and then Jacob had to turn around and deceive Laban, and back and forth, and that's no way to live. The only way to live is in honesty and in openness. Because when you live in honesty and openness, it's like you're being with God, because God says, walk with me in the light. Walk in the light as God is in the light. Don't walk in the darkness. Walk in the light. And you need to remember that. Walk in the light, not in the darkness. Don't deceive. Because when you start deceiving people, you have to keep deceiving people. And the next thing you know, they're deceiving you. And that's no way to live. God says walk in the light and not in the darkness. Remember that, kids, okay? All right. Hey, love you. And we're looking forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.